We all need to recognize, whether you're in nonprofit or any industry, the baby boomer retirement tsunami that is now here and will not go away. Every sector will be facing a workforce deficit. There will be more jobs than people to fill those jobs.
You're listening to The Switch, a nonprofit HR podcast about all things talent management for social impact organizations. This episode is part of a special series with Lisa Brown Alexander, founder and CEO for Nonprofit HR. This special series focuses on all things organizational culture. Never miss an episode of The Switch. Visit us online at nonprofithr.com/The Switch. And now for some information about our conversation host. Driven to serve the often overlooked people management needs for the social impact sector, Lisa Brown Alexander set out to build a market where one didn't exist. She founded Nonprofit HR in 2000, the leading talent management firm in the country that works exclusively with the nonprofit sector. A serial entrepreneur, Lisa is also co-founder of Wellspring Manor and Spa, located in Prince George's County, Maryland. Lisa's goal is to ensure that every nonprofit HR engagement inspires social sector leaders to strengthen their most important asset, their people. Over the course of her career, Lisa has presented to hundreds of organizations, staff, and leadership teams, covering all things talent management for the social sector. Nonprofit HR has also been listed by Inc. 5000 as one of the nation's fastest growing companies. And now for some details on our guest. Sheri Chaney Jones is the president and CEO of SureImpact. For more than 20 years, Sheri has applied performance management, evaluation, and organizational behavior best practices to nonprofit organizations and government agencies to improve outcomes and efficiencies. An author, professor, and internationally recognized expert, Sheri believes in data, metrics, and accountability. Sheri's foray into entrepreneurship began with Measurement Resources Company in 2010. Now a national firm, Measurement Resources increases the capacity of nonprofit and government sector organizations through high-performance practices and data-driven insights. In 2018, Sheri launched SureImpact to automate and simplify the process of collecting and sharing outcomes and impact data. And now, without further ado, here's Lisa Brown Alexander and Sheri Chaney Jones.
Well, everyone, I am so delighted to welcome to our conversation today Sheri Chaney Jones, President and CEO of SureImpact. And today we're going to delve into a conversation about people, talent management, culture, all things people in nonprofits. And so with that, Sheri, tell us a little about your organization and your mission.
Absolutely. So SureImpact is a technology platform that works exclusively with nonprofit and government leaders. And what we do is we help those leaders track what they do, how well they do it, and how people and communities are better off because of their work, giving them the insights they need about their work to help them raise more money, scale their impact, be more effective and efficient.
A data-driven organization.
Very data-driven organization, yes.
How did you arrive at creating this organization? Are you the founder? And if so, what was your personal experience that led you to create SureImpact?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Lisa. So I am the founder of SureImpact. And if you would have asked me 10 years ago, or told me 10 years ago that I would be the CEO and founder of a high-growth tech platform, I would say, I'm sorry, you have the wrong person. I'm actually an industrial and organizational psychologist by training. So very much fascinated in my early career on how we predict performance in organizations. How do we predict high performance? So I went to school to study. I thought I was going to develop selection tests for a living. So it was very passionate about using data to predict performance, solve complex social problems. Definitely, how do we find the right person-organization fit so we can have thriving organizations? And luckily for me, my very first job out of graduate school, I was developing a platform that was helping people with severe and persistent mental illness find work. So it was using all of the tenets and principles of selection and personal organizational fit, but the market in which we were serving were people that had a lot of barriers to employment, and using all those skills and technology to match. Now, this was 20 years ago. I'm dating myself. And this is before like even Match.com and those types of services. But that was kind of, for me personally, like, oh, I can use my passion for data, but for the social good space. So I leveraged that experience, was actually a government funder for about 10 years and working inside government entities, helping them measure and communicate their impact and grow more efficient and effective governments. Then I launched a company in 2010 called Measurement Resources. That is a consulting firm that helps the same market create these high-performing measurement cultures that are data-driven. And it was through that work that I discovered the technology was not there for the nonprofit sector to have these insights at their fingertips. It was just an undervalued sector, and it was woefully behind. And since I had been kind of a leader in this space and working exclusively with these customers, I asked myself and our team, what would it look like if we built the platform that we wanted to recommend for our clients? And so that was in 2017, 18, we started to have those conversations. And now 6 years later or so, we're serving more than 400 nonprofits and helping them with these data-driven insights. It's been a really fun journey.
I'm sure it has been. Can you give us a little insight without revealing anything proprietary? What's been the most impactful engagement you've had with a nonprofit where they've been able to take data and transform their organizational performance and, more importantly, their impact in the communities where they serve?
There is a funder called the Seymour Institute. So they're a foundation, and they invest in over 200 nonprofit organizations across the country that they provide grants to. And specifically, their mission or their thesis is that if they can provide funding to keep families with young children in their own homes, so if they're housing unstable and getting them their housing stability, so whether that's through rent assistance or helping them with their income support, but getting them stably housed and not having to move, which means the children stay in the same school environment, because they know that the more children have to move, it's a negative impact on their education. So the founder of this nonprofit is a former educator. She wants increased student outcomes. That's really her goal. But what's fascinating about how they're approaching the problem is through housing stability. And so they give grants to this network of more than 200 nonprofits across the country. And with SureImpact, all of the nonprofits are able to track their individual level like activities and outcomes for the families they serve. And this is what really makes our platform extremely powerful and unique in anything else that's on the market, is the data will seamlessly roll up to the national level. So in addition to being a funder, they also now become a thought leader because they have the insights they need to understand what's truly driving the changes in the different communities. And is California having different barriers than, Kentucky? And they have all this insights that helps them lobby and create systems change on a much more robust level than the old way of working.
No, that's fascinating. That's really fascinating. And such important work, right? So many times organizations are focused on the community serving aspect, but the data can really help shape how they do that work. So let's take a shift.
Sure.
We talked about what you do from an externally facing perspective. Let's talk inside.
Yeah.
So can you share with us maybe some major talent wins that your organization has experienced internally? We talked about the wins in the community. What about on the inside? How is your organization winning from a talent perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially as a tech company. Growing the talent base for me as a non-tech founder has been an extremely fascinating journey, like personal growth journey. But how we've won recently was that although we are a for-profit entity, we are very mission driven, and the work that we're doing is so important. So when a highly coveted developer is looking at their job opportunities as a startup serving the nonprofit space, unfortunately, we are unable to pay as much as maybe another tech company could pay. However, we do have this mission-driven focus, which a lot of these developers are really excited and they want to bring their passions and their work to an organization that is delivering social good. Our mission-driven organization has allowed us to attract very rockstar talent for maybe less than they would have been paid if they had worked somewhere else. And that's a really fun culture that we get to build, where bringing in the best talent we possibly can, but all working together for the greater good. That's what makes our work so fun, is this rallying behind not just making profits, but rallying behind the mission that we get to deliver impact for our customers.
Absolutely. We share that in common at Nonprofit HR. We are also a for-profit, but work exclusively with the social impact space. So social enterprise is how we refer to ourselves.
Yes.
Tell me, has your organization benefited from a talent perspective by the number of layoffs and reductions in force that the tech industry is going through right now? Are you kind of getting the residual benefit of that?
That's a very timely question. We just posted for a data warehouse engineer, and over just the last 3 days, the amount of resumes that I
Wow.
received. So I think, yes, we may be benefiting from that because we posted for a similar position about a year ago, and it took us maybe 6 months to even find some candidates to interview. So I think the answer is we're starting to see some of the impacts of the layoffs.
Got it. Wonderful. Well, that's a good thing. The last few years, I would say since 2020, that we've had a fair amount of tumult in the economy and just in the labor market. It's been particularly challenging for CEOs, right? Whether for profit or nonprofit. And resilience continues to be a leadership quality that we see our clients asking for when they're looking for their next CEO. As a firm that conducts sector-specific research, what data do you have or have you come across around distress that maybe CEOs are experiencing and how it might connect to their talent challenges? Any insight you can share in that space?
This is my own personal observation and opinion. I don't know that I haven't conducted, a research study about this, but
Okay.
I do interact with a lot of CEOs. So this is kind of my own qualitative research, I guess. And what I've been seeing and noticing from my other CEO peers and clients that are CEOs is that during the pandemic, we as CEOs and leaders of companies had to be so focused on our employees, right? And so focused on their needs and their resiliency and making sure that they were able to be home with their kids, but still deliver at work, and just really taking care of others to keep our organizations afloat and going to them. And now I see that now the CEOs are burnt out. The CEOs are saying, okay,
About me.
yeah, what about me? Like, what don't you see what I did or what I've been going through as well? Personally, how I take care of myself and I advise my colleagues and other CEO peers to take care of themselves is find an external, whether it's a coach, personally engage an executive coach just for me to help me through this, or, peer group, whether it's a support group or a, business development group, but plug into others that are going through the same challenges that you are so you don't feel so alone. You don't feel like no one understands what you're going through.
Definitely been a challenging time. And like you, I hear from CEOs who are a little bit worn down when perhaps staff are not feeling as resilient. The CEO has to kind of stand in and be the strong one. And sometimes over time that takes its toll on the CEO. And where do they go? So it's good that you've got a network of folks that can kind of share your pain and give you a safe space to be. As a result of the kind of craziness of the last several years, can you share maybe where you've personally grown as a result of partnering with nonprofit organizations? How has that impacted you on a personal level?
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing really great work. And on a personal level, I am, very data driven, analytical. Like these are just my natural gifts that I bring to the table. And I know I'm not wired to be the one who's probably on the ground interacting with people with challenges every single day. That's not the gifts that I've been given. But the fact that I'm able to lean into my own unique brilliance and still serve and empower and help the sector move forward is extremely fulfilling. So when, for example, those challenges arise, as they will in any leadership situation, I can step back and remember the greater purpose of why we do what we do and why this obstacle is important to overcome instead of giving up. And so for me, work doesn't feel like work, right? I mean, I wake up every day and I don't feel like I'm going to a job. I feel like I'm just doing the work that I was meant to do on this planet.
Excellent. Excellent. When you do what you love, it is definitely not work. So
Yes.
I can definitely relate to that. You're in kind of quasi tech, but data space. Let's talk AI for a moment, if we could.
Yeah.
It exploded across the nation's business landscape and has transformed so many sectors, including the nonprofit sector. Recognizing that your organization may be further along in its AI journey than others, where do you see success opportunities for nonprofits to leverage AI for their mission advancement? Do you have any thoughts, any insights on how you see AI amplifying mission and communities and community impact?
I do think AI is like all things tech, right? It can be used for good, it can be used for evil, but there are a lot of great things that AI can help the nonprofit space. I think we all need to recognize, whether you're in nonprofit or any industry, the baby boomer retirement tsunami that is now here and will not go away. That's just the reality of population. Every sector will be facing a workforce deficit. There will be more jobs than people to fill those jobs. And so in my opinion, the great thing about AI and coming into the nonprofit sector, and specifically, it will allow nonprofits to do what humans can do, right? Humans have to be there for other humans. Humans have to serve humans. AI can take care of other pieces of the business that we need to do, whether it's helping us be more efficient in writing our communication messages, or being better personal assistants so we're not wasting time on busy work, or in our own work. You have those insights that you're collecting, but quickly analyzing them and making sense of them and driving business intelligence so you can be more efficient and operate better. It's letting technology do what technology can do, maybe even better than humans sometimes, because we're eliminating the mistakes and the errors. As someone who grew up with dyslexia, probably still have a dyslexic brain, I'm so grateful for, AI advancements, because a computer can read through my emails and make sure I don't have typos and spelling. Like, I don't need to now find someone that has to spend an hour rereading my stuff before I can send it out. So it's thinking of those little things that can really increase our efficiencies in our organizations and our nonprofits, but realizing that humans have their unique brilliances that computers cannot do for us, and making sure that that's the work that we're focused on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's a whole contingent of roles in the sector that, as you say, require the human element, particularly our colleagues and friends in the human services space, people who are literally connecting and caring for and taking care of people every single day in a way that requires human touch. So I know that a lot of CEOs and other talent management leaders in the sector have been concerned that AI might wipe out their workforce. But as you say, the human element continues to be required. It's more an enhancement, right? Or eliminating inefficiencies where they exist.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely a changing era.
Well, one thing I do want to say about technology, any technology, is that AI, or even like getting a product like SureImpact, it's not a panacea, right? It doesn't fix
everything,
right? I talk about how we just take good organizations and make them better. But the ones that I'm like, oh, they really, really, really could use our services, typically they're not ready for technology. There's some fundamental organizational development, leadership elements, mindset growth that needs to be in place before any sort of technology is going to help advance the organization.
Absolutely. And we even see that still at the human resources and equity through those lenses, that there are some organizations that are what we consider to be talent averse. We have talent organizations that are talent aware, and then there are some that are talent focused. And the difference in those organizations are readiness. Are you willing to really harness and leverage the power of people to advance your mission, versus seeing that people function as ancillary or unnecessary or just a nice to have, but if things get tight, chop, right? So we know as HR professionals and as a talent management firm that the most successful organizations are the ones that are talent focused. And there's a direct connection between people investment and organizational outcomes.
Yeah,
totally get it. Let's talk DEI for a moment, if we could. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is getting a little bit of a beat down, certainly in the media and in higher ed. But do you have a prognosis for the future of DEI within your organization? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your organization's DEI journey and the opportunities, challenges, wins that you faced, and what you see happening going forward.
I can speak to that on two levels. The first is the importance of, my own work, especially in research, in the work that we serve. Our clients are serving people of all different types of backgrounds. So we put an equity lens into our product. So when nonprofits are using our product, all of their insights and outcomes are being analyzed through a gender, race, and equity lens to ensure that no one is essentially falling through the cracks. So let's talk about housing stability, for example. In our product, users are able to see, is housing stability outcomes the same for women, men, non-binary folks of different races, different language speaking? And the reason that that was important for us is because we know that if we take a majority lens, sometimes those who are most at risk or most disadvantaged, their voices are not heard. And that continues those structural problems. So part of, SureImpact's mission is to solve complex social problems with data. We can't solve them if they're not identified. So that's one part of which DE&I, not so much on the people side, but on the empowering any structural issues to be uncovered so that they can be addressed. And then in the talent workforce, as an industrial and organizational psychologist, I've always been a huge believer in inclusive workplaces, whether that's inclusion of ability, race, gender, skills. So that's something that I've always valued, is creating inclusive workspaces. I will say that as a former evaluator, we've done a lot of work with people in science and tech, because what we know is that if you're a business owner and you want a more diverse workforce, but the talent pool is not equally representative of the population, it becomes even harder to create the diversity you want. So I've done a lot of personal advocacy work down into the education level, making sure that the recruitment processes that are getting our young people of all backgrounds into these careers and into these talent pipelines, so that when it comes to the hiring manager, it's not the same, smaller percentage of a population getting recruited for the same jobs over and over and over again, because the math just doesn't work out. So it's a very complex problem. I know politically it's getting some bad press, but let's ignore that. It's important. And I live in Columbus, Ohio. The data shows that I think it's by 2030, I might be making this up, but if you're a white person, you're going to be in the minority in Columbus, Ohio. And this is in the middle of America, right? I'm sure this is true across all urban cities. So if we're not thinking about inclusive, diverse workplaces, we're just going to be out of business in the future.
Yeah. Eventually, yes, that's definitely the direction in which things are headed. So those are kind of at the macro level. What about internally? Tell us a little bit about your organization's DEI journey. You talked about kind of making sure that your workforce is representative of the community where you are. And tell us a little bit about maybe some of the challenges that you've had. Has it been around gender? Has it been around race? Has it been around other forms of identity? Or is your challenge around equity or inclusion? Or is it the whole thing?
I think we've done a really good job of implementing all the elements of an inclusive culture, right? We put into place where everyone has a voice, everyone has a say, a culture of empathy. Our biggest challenge in terms of generating not diverse in ideas and thought, I feel like we check the box there. But if you were to look at the faces of our company, we have actually more women than men, because I'm a female-led company, but I would love more racial diversity on our teams. And a lot of that, because we are in Central Ohio, and that it's the demand. I'm not saying the talent isn't there, but it's us trying to find where we recruit, how do we get the talent to apply so that we can hire more diverse individuals. I think, and to be frank, that's been my biggest challenge as CEO.
And you're not alone. Nonprofit HR produces an annual diversity survey, and we know that many organizations are still at the beginning of their journeys, are still working from having a diversity statement, but not any practices that are actually formal practices. It's a desire, but not actual formal steps toward integrating diversity, equity, or inclusion into their workforce. So organizations kind of represent the full spectrum, just like every other workplace challenge and opportunity that exists. And certainly where your organization sits is not unique. You may be seeking better racial representation than you currently have, and are challenged with breaking through. I appreciate your candor. And I think it's important for us to know where we are on the journey and be candid with people who might be considering us as employers. That they're walking into.
And if we can still be candid, that always is a concern for me. It's we want to invite everyone into our team. And then I could see, if I was a person of color doing research on my company and going, well, I don't have a place here. And it's no, you do. Please come.
Well, you know what? It's good that they have a place, and continue to make that appeal. And we know that organizations are, establishing partnerships with institutions of higher learning and communities of color to access the available talent, and there is
Yeah.
plenty. So
Yes. Yes.
I encourage you to keep moving in that direction.
I will. I promise you.
No, that's good. It's good. Let's talk a little bit about how nonprofit leaders can benefit from having highly diversified and developed skills and competencies in the leadership space. So, for example, if you have an organization filled with data-driven folks, do you have a specific path or journey to help those data-driven people develop their soft skills? How are you developing the talent in your organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're still a startup, so we're still very, very small. But as a leader, I think our value statement is what is developing our culture. So in addition to data integrity is number one, the privacy of data integrity, because we are a data company. So that has to be like our number one focus. But then once we go there, our values are collaboration. So we are, yes, we have our engineers, we have our sales, we have our marketing, we have our product team, our customer success teams, but it is very important that we all work together. And so how we evaluate that is that's part of their evaluation. So we evaluate their technical skills, but then we also evaluate all of our employees on those values, which are the collaboration, the teamwork, the empathy. Actually, empathy is one of our values because we need to be empathetic to each other. And we also need to be empathetic towards our customers and understanding their needs and making sure we're delivering value to them. And so when we're doing our, annual reviews, it's being evaluated on your technical skills as well as these more softer skills, if you will, leadership skills. And then working on, just like you would a performance improvement plan on a technical side, if someone is missing the mark on the more softer skills, is working on a professional development plan, whether it's, here's a book that you should read, or let's have some coaching conversations about another way to approach, that colleague in that situation versus this way. So I think, as a small company, we have to work within our own budgets. And, unfortunately, we don't have large budgets for professional development, but we do try to develop people and lean into our values as well.
No, that's good. That's very good. And I think a lot of organizations are taking similar journeys to round out their leadership staff as well as non-leadership, right? Because you can't have a really strong organization if only the leaders are being developed and the non-leaders or individual contributors are virtually ignored. So it's on both ends of the spectrum for sure. As we wrap up our conversation today, I wonder if you could maybe just share your kind of 2 or 3 critical imperatives that you believe executive leaders should be focused on in 2024 and beyond. What's your kind of best advice for our listeners around how to lead through this year and into the future?
Yeah, one thing I want to make sure that I say, and I think this is a good opportunity to talk about it, is that in my prior role when I was running the consulting firm, we had the opportunity to do a lot of evaluation studies on nonprofit leaders and what it looked like to be high performing. And one of the things that gets so underlooked in the nonprofit sector, but we would discover it again and again and again empirically through the research that we were doing, is that, for example, we found in a state's home visiting program, so people working with new moms, helping with infant vitality, that the relationship between the home visitor and their supervisor. So think about that. We're talking about people and organizational capacity and culture. So the relationship between the supervisor and the home visitor directly predicted the family engagement outcomes.
Wow.
And so, I think nonprofits are probably more notorious for not investing in their people and those, like the culture side of things, but it does impact the bottom line, especially the bottom line of the people that they're serving. So I think with the workforce shortage and the current millennial, it's, a tsunami of things, all the things, the millennial and the Gen Zs and all the stuff that's happening, when you focus on the capacity of your team, when you focus on the culture of your team, it does have a relationship to the impact your nonprofit is making. And so boards and leadership, I think, need to bring that more and more of that to the table when they're looking at where they're investing in their organization. So that's first and foremost. And then also what we see from a funding perspective, as the amount of nonprofits grow and the money to support them is staying the same or shrinking, or we could debate, or shifting, having access to how you're delivering outcomes and value into your community and with data is the competitive advantage. And when nonprofits have it, they raise more money, they're more sustainable, they win more grants, and when they don't have it, they don't. So if you're struggling with telling your story and to raise more money, ask yourself, are we able to communicate with real data the impact our nonprofit is having in the community? And that trend I don't see going away anytime soon.
Absolutely. What a great way to kind of pull it all together, Sheri. Thank you so much for your time today and for helping us think about data in a different way. Thank you. We wish you all the best as you move forward with leading SureImpact and it continuing to impact the sector in a positive way. Be well.
Well, that's our show for today. Very special thank you to our host, founder and CEO for Nonprofit HR, Lisa Brown Alexander, and our guest, Sheri Chaney Jones, CEO for SureImpact. Learn more about Nonprofit HR. Visit us online at nonprofithr.com and learn more about SureImpact. Visit them online at sureimpact.com.